More economic growth for St. Kitts, our top story in Caribbean Newsline for Thursday, December 13. From the CMC News Center in Bridgetown, I'm Crowd Roberts. Good evening. Thanks for joining us. The St. Kitts Nevis government is reporting 2.1% economic growth. Prime Minister Dr. Timothy Harris made the disclosure in his budget presentation on Wednesday, saying the Twin Island Federation continues to demonstrate resilience amidst prevailing downside risks in the international and regional economic environment. He said GDP had increased by 2.1%, which is on par with the growth rate of 2.3% recorded by advanced economies. It also surpassed the economic output of Eastern Caribbean Currency Union member states of 1.3%.
The outturn also surpassed the economic output of the Currency Union, which was put at 1.3% for the same period. The growth in the local economy was underpinned by expansions of 11.4% in agriculture, 6% in transport, storage, and communication sector, and 4.7% in the construction sector. The growth trend in the economy continued in 2018, resulting in a positive outturn during the first half of the year. I'm advised that the growth we are currently witnessing is attributed largely to the growth in tourism sector, which grew by some 8.5% in the first half of 2018.
Harris said expansions in the agriculture, transport, storage and communication and construction sectors contributed to the growth. He told legislators the manufacturers sector also rebounded during the first six half of 2018, recording an expansion in economic activity of 3.7% after declining by 10% during the same period in 2017.
The agriculture sector also contributed positively to the overall performance of the economy by recording a 5% increase in output, in line with growth in the livestock and fisheries subsector, which recorded increases of 11.3% and 9.7% respectively. The real estate, renting and business activities sector expanded by 2.7%, while wholesale and retail and financial intermediation sectors expanded by 1% respectively.
But responding to the budget presentation on Thursday, opposition leader Dr. Denzil Douglas said it was a mishmash of projects which would not raise the economic growth rate over the long term. He noted that the paltry growth rate in 2017 and the apparent poor performance in 2018 is a major source of concern for him. The Central America and Caribbean Catastrophe Risk Insurance Program, the CACRIP, has received its biggest contribution from a single donor. It has come from the German government. The World Bank said Wednesday that it had signed an agreement with the German government-owned bank that's curfew for a 15 million euro contribution to be executed under the CACRIP. The Washington-based financial institution said the engagement is part of efforts by donors and the international community to address increasing disaster risks by supporting insurance mechanisms that provide rapid payouts to countries in the aftermath of a disaster. Jamaica's opposition leader Dr. Peter Phillips is urging the government to change its crime-fighting strategy. This as his People's National Party says it's sticking to its decision not to support the extension of 3 states of emergency across the island. Speaking at a press conference, Phillips reiterated his party's position that there must be a clear threat to the state for a state of emergency to be declared.
It may be arguable that such a threat existed at the beginning in St. James or any one of the areas, but it cannot be argued that that level of threat still remains in the areas. And there are those that say that the present construction of the Constitution says that the denial of rights, such as I described before, to the detainees in St. Catherine and St. James and elsewhere, really is not justifiable.
Meanwhile, the opposition party has outlined specific conditions which must be met and maintained before it supports a further extension. Phillips is insisting that even if the states of emergency end, there are existing laws which enable the security forces to continue their operations. We get more in this TVJ News report.
The People's National Party has outlined specific conditions which must be met and maintained before it re-engages its support for further extension. Opposition leader Dr. Peter Phillips is insisting that even if the states of emergency end, there are existing laws which enable the security forces to continue their operations. He argues that after 1 year, the government must change its strategy. He named the conditions for re-engagement while speaking on Beyond the Headlines.
There are circumstances, if one can demonstrate, as the Constitution requires, that there is a substantial threat to the survival of the state or the community or part of it that would warrant such a declaration in that area or other areas, then yes, I mean, we're not saying that we would never consider a state of emergency ever again.
Dr. Phillips also responded to concerns being raised that the PNP took a political decision to vote against the security measures and betrayed the people.
I think that they are really operating on the basis of a misunderstanding. And if their view is that there is nothing that can be done without a state of emergency to uphold the law and deliver peace, then it would be a mistaken view. The view that only a state of emergency counts has been fostered by some, including the government, and that it is really a false dilemma.
On Tuesday, the opposition voted against extending the security measure in St. James, St. Catherine North, and sections of the corporate area.
Trinidad and Tobago's Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley is accusing the opposition of attempting to possibly sabotage the government's gas agreement with Venezuela. He made the comment in Parliament when asked about the surety of Venezuela honoring the agreement in light of opposing factors in that country. Rowley told the House that he's more concerned about the opposition's interference. We get more in the CNC3 News report.
After almost 2 years of negotiations, a lucrative gas deal between Venezuela and this country was finalized in the last quarter of 2018. But the Prime Minister is warning of sinister moves.
I'm aware, Madam Speaker, that members of this opposition in Trinidad and Tobago have been trying to get members of the opposition in Venezuela to oppose this matter.
The revelation came during Prime Minister's questions time in the Parliament, when the opposition dared to ask whether the government was confident about the agreement given opposition voices in Venezuela. But the PM noted that only after successful negotiations with this country, one Venezuelan opposition member would come to our shores to say the agreement may not be honored.
The only place where this kind of talk is in present and in vogue is in Trinidad and Tobago, where the opposition in Trinidad and Tobago is trying to get the Venezuelan opposition to torpedo an agreement between the government of Trinidad and Tobago and the government of Venezuela for the people of Trinidad and Tobago, and there's a name for that.
But there was swift denial of the accusation.
I would misstate categorically, we are not engaged with the...
And the opposition wanted more answers.
Could the Prime Minister indicate to this Honourable House the identity of members of the opposition who he's aware of are trying to undermine the agreement between the government of Trinidad and Tobago and Venezuela among opposition members in Venezuela?
Normally we handle this by saying, call name, I go whistle. But Madam Speaker, my colleague from our approach east could assist us and the country by telling us who brought that opposition member here to come and talk that talk in Trinidad and Tobago.
In the end, Dr. Rowley would make it clear that any agreement entered into with the government of Venezuela will not be affected by political or social pressures.
And the Guyana government is monitoring a development in neighboring Venezuela. We'll tell you what that is after the break.
Well, we've had a chance to check out some different properties for sale in Aruba, and everybody keeps saying to us, you have to talk to a notary. So what is the role of a notary in buying a property in Aruba?
Well, Alan, in the European setting, the notary is basically a magistrate, the same as a judge. When you have a conflict, you go to a judge and he will sentence both or one of the parties to the agreement or to the sentence. The notary will overlook the contract and will sentence both parties, as in a verdict by a judge, to abide to it.
Pick a vibes, yes. I hear mine. Your bumper just fluctuates in my love. Girl, it just fluctuates in my love. When you wine back, like fire, like fire, yeah, yeah. Morning, I'm the only one she wants. Oh, yeah. I'll give you all of me, cause you're my number. Blessings all for my life, and my thank God for the journey, the earnings, not just for the plus. Yeah, and gratitude is a must. Yeah, me see blessings. Clear out. You're going to need to cap yourself to well on this one.
5 seconds remaining. Don't know if they're going to get back around in time, but Alexander Rossi goes P1.
Drop P2, pit. Pasno, U, Power, Sato, Marco, Rahal. Good job. All clear, all clear. First car in front of you is one.
The Guyana government says it's monitoring developments in Venezuela after two Tu-160 supersonic bombers known as White Swans landed at Maiqueta Airport near the capital Caracas on Monday. The development came days after Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro held talks with Russian President Vladimir Putin in Moscow. The United States has been critical of the Maduro-led government in the South American oil-rich country and has openly called for its removal from office. Guyana has an ongoing border dispute with Venezuela that is likely to go before the International Court of Justice. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs said it has been approached with reports of the deployment of the supersonic bombers. And it says while it's monitoring the developments, military exercises are a regular feature of state relations and do not themselves constitute a threat. And notwithstanding the border controversy, Georgetown says it remains open to pursuing meaningful functional cooperation with Venezuela whenever that opportunity arises. For the first time in almost a decade, Trinidad and Tobago has reached the 500 murder mark. And Police Commissioner Gary Griffith says it's unacceptable. We get more in this report from Nika Parsonal of TV6 News.
Trinidad and Tobago hasn't hit the 500 murder mark since 2009. With 2.5 weeks left to 2019, we're here yet again. Commissioner of Police Gary Griffith promised to put a dent in crime, and most may argue that he has. But with the numbers staring us dead in the face, some find it hard to see the light.
Well, I mean, nobody will feel good about that once you know what crime is, right? Because crime is something that goes against everybody. I mean, if you have a family that get killed, how will you feel?
I don't like that at all. I don't like that at all. It's not nice. During to like other countries and things, well, Trinidad, well, I have to say Trinidad gone clear. Because when you really check it, like you have to say like every minute, every second, we hearing about a murder.
It's not a pleasant way to feel. And I mean, things are getting from bad to worse. And I hope that the government, the Ministry of National Security could deal with it in a more positive manner in the new year coming.
Despite the grim milestone between Griffith's ascent to office on August 17th to Wednesday, December 12th, there have been a total of 156 murders compared to 175 last year. Speaking with TV6, the commissioner said that reaching 500 homicides is the most unacceptable milestone that any country can acquire. And he said he wouldn't call the 10% decrease a victory either. He added that in order for Trinidad and Tobago to see any drastic change, all aspects of gang activity must be totally eliminated, which would take several years. In the short term, he intends to work to at least cut the number in half.
St. Lucia's Prime Minister Alan Chastney says he's concerned about the upsurge in crime and violence on the island. He described crime as one of the glaring challenges facing the country, even as it makes some achievements. Chastney spoke against the backdrop of a sharp upsurge in gun violence as he delivered a message on Thursday to mark National Day. He said the government this week made a significant step towards building the infrastructure necessary to facilitate growth. The Prime Minister made reference to the upgrade of sporting facilities around the island as presenting opportunities for more young people to chart a course in the sporting arena. But he said that even as St. Lucia celebrates these latest achievements, the government is fully aware of the challenges that face the island. Chastney said his government has taken decisions to strengthen the police force and justice system. But even so, he says his administration recognizes that there is still a long way to go. Venezuela's President Nicolas Maduro has accused the United States of plotting to kill him and topple his government. He appeared on state TV on Wednesday and repeated his frequent warning that a U.S. invasion is imminent, this time giving some details but no evidence. He accused President Donald Trump's National Security Advisor John Bolton of overseeing a plot to have U.S.-paid mercenaries replace him with a dictator, and he alleged that the mercenaries were training in neighboring Colombia. President Trump has labeled the leftist leader a dictator and has imposed sanctions on the country. Maduro's second term begins on January 10th, 2019, following elections this year that many foreign nations have rejected as illegitimate. And U.S. company Del Monte Foods have recalled over 60,000 cases of incompletely sterilized canned corn from 8 Caribbean countries. It warns that the product, Fiesta corn, could cause life-threatening illness if consumed. The countries affected by the recall are Guyana, the Bahamas, Barbados, Belize, Bermuda, Haiti, Aruba, St. Lucia, and Suriname. El Salvador, Uruguay, and Panama are also included in the recall. The company says the recall is specific to Del Monte's Fiesta corn only and not any of its other products. The U.S. Food and Drug Administration says the recall of 64,242 cases of the Fiesta corn seasoned with red and green peppers was due to under-processing. The company said in the notice, it said the missed steps from the commercial sterilization process could result in spoilage and possible contamination with life-threatening pathogens if eaten. Del Monte had warned there have not been any reports of illness as a result of the products. The company added, it said, a central concern with under-processing canned food is the potential growth of bacteria, including Clostridium botulinum, which creates toxins that causes botulism poisoning, according to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. And ahead in Newsline Sport, the West Indies under-19s begin their World Cup preparations. Stay with us. Sport is next.
Barbados, renowned for its pristine beachfront and fantastic weather, continues to leave quite an impression on newcomers to the island and returning visitors. The Caribbean island, quite popular as a vacation hotspot, is not only beautiful due to its natural aesthetics. The island of Barbados continues to grow in popularity because of unique connections developed with our people, our culture. We can't wait to welcome you.
Well, General Motors announced this week they'll be closing a number of manufacturing plants in the U.S. and Canada and laying off thousands of workers. Citing slow sales, the auto manufacturing giant also announced they're going to stop building certain cars, including the Chevy Impala, Cruze and Volt, the Cadillac XTS and CT6, and the Buick LaCrosse. Now, the 6 cars going out of production have something curiously particular in common. They're all 4-door sedans.
A half-century from opening batsman John Campbell has put Jamaica Scorpions in command of their second-round clash against host Barbados Pride in the regional 4-day competition. At tea at the 3Ws Oval, the Scorpions were 102 with not a single wicket lost as they chased down Pride's first innings total of 167. Campbell smashed a superb 67 from 94 balls, while experienced Chadwick Walton scored an unbeaten 19 from 87 deliveries. Earlier, left-arm spinner was in ripping form as he tore into Pride's batting lineup, picking up 4 wickets for 53 runs as the hosts capitulated on 167 from 60 overs. Middle-order batsman Jonathan Carter top-scored with 50, while Aaron Jones chipped in with 28 from 66 deliveries. Also taking wickets for the Scorpions were medium pacer Durval Green. He captured figures of 3 for 10, while Dennis Bolai had figures of 2 for 50. Over at the Brian Lara Cricket Academy, where Red Force were trailing Windward Islands by 127 after the visitors were dismissed on 206 in 68 overs. Opening batsman Kirk Edwards was strapped LBW on 55, while Tariq Gabriel added 50. TNT leg spinner Imran Khan wreaked havoc as the Volcanoes, for the Volcanoes as he picked up figures of 7 for 47, while off spinner Tion Webster took 2 wickets for 44 runs. At tea, Red Force were 79 for 1 with Jeremy Solazano not out on 46 and Amir Jangru unbeaten on 19. And that should have read Imran Khan taking the wickets for Red Force. And West Indies under-19 cricketers began a 1-week high-performance campaign on Thursday as they started preparations for the 2020 ICC Under-19 World Cup. They are working under the guidance of head coach Graham West and his assistant Roddy Estwick at the Coolidge Cricket Ground in Antigua. Now, during the camp, they will also engage in interactive sessions with West Indies cricket great Sir Curtly Ambrose in a bid to boost their chances of victory in the limited overs tournament. West said this is a first step of their journey that will take the players through to the World Cup. He has been head coach for the last 2 tournaments and was the man at the helm when the Windies won the title in Bangladesh 2 years ago. The squad for the camp includes 3 players who competed in the ICC Under-19 World Cup in New Zealand earlier this year: opener Kamani Milius, fast bowling all-rounder Naeem Young, and left-arm slow bowler Ashmead Ned. Switching sports, athletics bodies under the Jamaica Olympic Association have received a 20-page document containing details about sweeping changes in the association. It comes a day after TVJ Sport reported that the sporting organizations remained in the dark about the changes days before a planned extraordinary meeting. TVJ's Keon Rayner reports.
TVJ Sport sources revealed that the proposed new articles of incorporation, which is 20 pages long, was sent to their respective sporting associations Tuesday afternoon. This came hours after a story carried by RGR Sports yesterday morning. The current Articles of Association, which was drafted in 1993, is a 12-page document with 52 sections. The new document contains an additional 32 sections, including a portion that deals with the composition of the board of directors, which now calls for the addition of an athlete representative. Another section speaks to the position of Secretary General now being appointed instead of being voted in, with the Chief Executive Officer CEO to hold that position as a non-voting ex officio member. The JOA had sent a 4-page notice of the meeting to members on December 5. The notice did not provide any details as to the proposed changes to the Articles of Incorporation. The notice called for members to vote to adopt and approve the Articles of Incorporation proposed by the Board of Directors of the JOA with immediate effect. Now, further efforts by TVJ Sports to get a comment from President of the JOA, Christopher Samuda, on the proposed changes were unsuccessful on Wednesday, as his cell phones again went to voicemail. A 75% majority of the JOA members at the EGM is required to effect the changes to the Articles of Incorporation. Reporting.
Over in Trinidad and Tobago now, one cycling body is calling on the Keith Rowley administration to amend the highway code that allows cyclists to use major roads. It comes in the wake of recent accidents that have claimed the lives of 3 cyclists. TTT's Marie-Therese Bernard tells us more.
As cyclists face increased fatalities and wounding on the nation's roadways, cycling promoter Michael Phillips says drivers need to be educated on the road rules that now exist.
So what I find very interesting in light of the accidents that we've had is we see the reaction of people, outpouring of empathy, and then you have the adverse reaction in terms of get off the damn roads. I mean, I'm quoting from one or two responses that I bothered to read in the negative. The feeling that they are legally right by saying a bicycle has no right to use the road. So there's an education issue there that that the Ministry of Roads and Transport and Arrival Live have identified.
Proposed changes to the Road and Traffic Bill, he says, include designated cycling lanes along certain parts of major roadways.
Not unlike anything that is being done abroad, the identifying of lanes and tracks where possible and where not possible, a specific code in terms of the passing distance or the overtaking distance with regards to a bicycle or a cart.
Mr. Phillips was actually on the scene of the recent accident on December 9th when one cyclist was killed.
And that's the sports. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Come and experience exceptional fun. Meet amazing people. Enjoy fantastic food and rock the nights away to world-class music at the 23rd Annual St. Kitts Music Festival. 3 nights of musical entertainment from the 27th to the 29th of June 2019. Book now and save the date. For more information, log on to stkittsmusicfestival.net. St. Kitts Music Festival, an experience like no other.
Ricky Martin is taking full advantage of his time in Puerto Rico. He recently visited the town of Louisa. Continue to hand over keys to new homes for 3 families who were left homeless by Hurricanes Irma and Maria last year. The Ricky Martin Foundation, a non-profit organization named after the superstar, has already handed over a number of keys to homeowners whose homes he helped rebuild.
So you're speaking all this knowledge. So what's your love life looking like?
Oh, my love life is wonderful.
Nice.
Oh, yeah. I have like about 15,000 people that loves me right now. And they're all heading to the depot to go and get my CD right
Nice.
Plug. That I know for sure. And a matter of fact, they might be wondering, when's the next show, Mr. Kelly?
Yes, when is it?
I'll have to wait until management lets me know.
Okay.
That's Caribbean Newsline. For news and sports around the clock, log on to CarnerNews.com. We'll be back here again tomorrow, but from all of us at CMC News, thank you for watching. Have yourselves a good night.